I'm going to start right off inside the product. I don't have a slide deck, so we're going to actually take a look right at the product and be demoing the various modules of Business Central. So it is a full ERP, not only your finance module with your general ledger, GL accounts, and financial reporting, but we also have purchasing, sales, inventory, so a full-blown ERP product. Starting off then, right in the homepage, what you'll notice is I have this opened up in my Chrome browser. So this is a cloud-based product. You can access this through Internet Explorer, Chrome, your Android or Apple devices, mobile phones. And since it is an integrated product with Microsoft, it's using your Office 365 account. And so if you're familiar with that and you know how the Microsoft suite of products are all kind of integrated together, the first thing you'll notice when I'm logged into Business Central is the app chooser in the upper left-hand corner, where you can see the various Microsoft products here kind of all integrated together. One of the ones that I wanted to highlight was Power BI, and then another one that we'll see too is Outlook. And so Power BI, if you're familiar with that at all, it's a great reporting tool by Microsoft, being able to create different KPIs, dashboards through that product. But what Microsoft did with Business Central is actually make a couple adapters available to us within Power BI. And so if you go and launch Power BI, you can actually see here, if you type into the different apps that are available in their app store, a couple free ones available to us are the finance and the sales connectors. And so right out of the box with Power BI and Business Central, you get some different dashboards that are available to us. You can download these, connect them to your Business Central license and be able to report on them, both outside of Business Central using the Power BI app, or make dashboards available inside the Business Central product. And you'll see different areas of the system here as we go through the demo today of where these dashboards can be made available to us. I'm going to also point out Outlook, but we'll get into that when we do a purchasing demonstration a little bit. So on the home page, just like with any ERP, this is your landing page. I came from the Microsoft Dynamics GP background, so if I try to relate things back to GP, I apologize. That's just where I naturally go as I'm demonstrating this product. But the Business Central homepage here is really cool in the way that it really gives you a lot of information right up front on the homepage. A lot of times you don't have to leave this homepage depending on where you need to navigate to. And so you'll see your different series at the top here in the menu. You'll see different favorites that I have bookmarked here. This is all customizable of where you might want to navigate to. You have different actions in the top where you can perform transactions like entering a sales invoice or a purchase invoice. And as you scroll down, we have an insight into our company with looking at different things like what are our sales this month, or how many outstanding purchase invoices do I have? And then different tiles that I can drill into to see different purchasing documents like 24 open purchase orders, different purchase invoices. And so a lot of different things here on the homepage. And again, this is really configurable to your user. I can have a different page than my coworker. And all of this here is not even, wasn't really established by me or customized by me. This is all kind of pre-built for us based off of a role center. And we choose that role center by clicking on the settings icon at the top here and going into my settings. And there's a lot of predefined role centers. So depending on your area of the business, like if you're in payables, you might choose the purchasing role. If you're kind of maybe in administration, you can choose the administration role. And so what happens is the menus, the home page all gets tailored to that role center that you select. Now, this does not affect your security. Security is a whole separate, another topic that controls what access you have. The roles just give you the ability to configure your homepage to maybe what you need to see based off of the job duties that you would perform. Also, through the Edit My Settings while I'm here, I'm just going to mention too that you can choose different companies to work in. So it does allow multiple companies in Business Central, and you can flip between the different companies here by clicking on this ellipsis and your working date. So the transaction date as you work through the system. And notice I'm in the future. I'm in a company called Cronus, just so nobody gets confused. Just a sample Business Central company that sells, buys and sells furniture parts. All right. So on our homepage, again, I did mention some of the different charts and tiles that are available to us. You can see here that you can flip between them a little bit. A lot of these are drop-down menus where you can choose different charts or different periods if you want to display the chart differently. Again, all configurable to your user. One of the things I did want to point out too, though, is a section on the homepage called Intelligent Cloud Insights. What this is a look into our company and looking at a few different things here. So number one, at the top, we have different tiles here that represent some KPIs for us that we can drill into, such as inventory value, looking at the value of inventory that we have in our system. And again, these are all drill-in tiles. On the right-hand side here, we have insights. And so what it's looking at is our transactions and records that we put into the system and giving us feedback on that. So it's showing us here 29 of our customers that are late with their payments. Well, if I want to find out what those customers are, I can drill into that insight. And that's going to open up a nice window here where I can see all the different invoices that make up that outstanding balance. So I could maybe work this list and call these customers to get payment. I have 14 invoices that weren't paid by me on time. Again, same thing, I can drill into the list and see the payables invoices that make up, you know, those outstanding balances to the vendors. So some pretty neat things here with the Intelligent Cloud Insight. Down at the bottom, we have Power BI. So I did mention how you can link that with your Business Central. And so this is one of the areas where I'm seeing a chart from Power BI available to me within Business Central, give me a look and breakdown of my income statement and my balance sheet. And again, these charts too are you know, filterable, and also you can drill into them. And then on the right hand side, lastly, is just a mini trial balance. All right. So one more thing before we get into the chart of accounts and really how this Business Central is built around the chart of accounts. Just another quick mention on navigation. And so, as I mentioned before, your role center really builds out your favorites here at the top, your series that you can choose between to navigate to different areas of the system. But the search bar is a really cool thing. So the search at the top, or there's quick links throughout the system here where you can type Alt-Q on your keyboard and get to the same place. So there's a lot of keyboard shortcuts for those that like to use those and not have to click with their mouse. But the search at the top is pretty unique. And so this search here is asking you to tell me what you want to do. But this is really looking at all the different areas of Business Central, but not just your cards and your transactions. This also could search help articles. It can search App Source for different things. And so even if you don't know what you're searching for, it can kind of guide you through that process. So just as an example, as I'm learning the product, or as I was learning the product before, maybe I needed to find a report that showed me a customer balance. Well, Business Central is now going to look at those keywords that I typed in there and find me different areas in the system here where I might be able to get a customer balance. So as an example, it's suggesting here printing a customer statement. Now, it doesn't necessarily have that in the name, but it's returning that value because it's, you know, maybe part of that description or part of the keywords that make that up. And of course, you can get a balance of a customer out by printing out a customer statement. And so that's just a pretty cool thing to guide you through as you're learning the product. It's definitely a crutch when you're looking for different things that you're trying to do. It's a great search tool to be able to navigate through the system that way. And you'll see me probably use that more than once through the demonstration. Also gives you reports down here below. So trial balance reports, again, other places where you can get balances. I did mention documentation or help articles. And then lastly, a section here from AppSource. Okay, so the first area that I wanted to look at in Business Central was the chart of accounts. And so to get to the chart of accounts, I do have it tagged as a favorite on my homepage, so I can just click on it. And so the chart of accounts that we have here is represented in a list view. And so we call these list views in Business Central. These are your cards, or these might be transactions that look like this. So these list views are pretty neat. So number one, here's a listing of all my chart of accounts. It gives me the net change and balance in the same view. So you're really starting to combine a lot of different things in just one single view in the system, or in these list views. So for these chart of accounts, you can see not only maybe setting up a new account or drilling into an existing account, but you'll also see net change and period balances. So a lot of these views we have available to us so that we can also report on things. And so these list views are not only used to maintain the cards and transactions, but they can also be used to report on things as well. And so for that reason, they give us the filter icon here, where we can maybe filter by a number of different columns. We can use the search button at the top here to search anything, whether that be the account number or the name. And then if we wanted to save it as a favorite, we also have different favorites of the views or the filters that we placed on these, so that we don't have to add those each and every time. We can just go ahead and click on them so that they're available to us that way. Now, the chart of accounts here in Business Central, we really have just a single segment or a natural account for our GL accounts. And beyond that, we have what's called dimensions in Business Central. And so this main segment here is, like I said before, our natural account. And anything beyond that that we want to report on, such as a grant or a division or a department, we set up as dimensions. And those are kind of like your attributes for your transaction. They can be reported through within financials so that you can see maybe a report based off of the department or the division. But again, back to how the accounts are built, we have a single natural account here that's available to us. So if we were to query an existing account, I can use the search here at the top. So if I just wanted to see maybe my expenses, I could type just expense at the top, and notice now I'm filtering just a list of my expenses. If I wanted to drill into any one of these, like my travel expense, just to see and show you how the accounts are built, I can click on any of these linked fields. 61550 is my GL account number. And you can see pretty straightforward how this account gets set up with a number, a name, whether it belongs to the income statement or balance sheet. We can categorize it or subcategorize it, which would help us then later on reports. And what type of account it is as a posting account. And so that's all that's needed to set up a new GL account. We can also click the new button at the top to initiate a new GL account card and be able to create a new one. And again, that's all that's needed then to be able to transact that new account in a journal entry, which is where we'll go next. So 2 journal entries then, we'll go there now. On our finance drop down here, we have a spot here called general journals, and this is what I would consider to be our journal entries. And you might have different batches here that are available. These are considered batches in Business Central, where you could group transactions together, post them all at once. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work off of this one here called default. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that batch. And what you'll see here is a very simplistic journal entry template. So at the top here, I've already chosen default as the batch name, which is why it pre-populated. Advances my document number in the system by 1. And again, posting date came from my settings at the top, but that would advance, based off of your user date. So, but it can be chose differently, the settings. I just wanted to point that out. Now, when we go to our account numbers to put in our debits and credits, the cool part about any of these lookups throughout Business Central is that I don't have to type the account number. I can type just expense or travel or whatever I want to type into here. It's going to query not only the number, but the name as well. in the account number field, which is really cool. That really helps you use these searches and find the things that you're looking to transact against. So I'm going to code this journal entry to travel expense. There's my account name that got returned. There's a description if I wanted to give it a further reference, we would call that maybe. I could type into that and give it a further reference. And then I can type in my debit, go ahead and find my other expense that I wanted. Maybe I'm just, you know, recategorizing my miscellaneous. So I can put that then in my second journal entry row. I can go ahead and save this, go to another transaction, or from here I can actually post it. So here in the top here, I'm gonna go ahead and hit post. And one of the unique things of Business Central is we have a thing called preview posting. Preview posting is like an edit list, and it gives you a chance to review the journal before you actually go ahead and hit post. So if I wanted to click preview posting, I can see the journal entries that are being made here. There's the 1,000 to travel expense, there's the 1,000 to miscellaneous expense. Might not necessarily be something you would post or look at in preview on a journal entry, but this is pretty cool when you look at maybe posting your payables invoices or your sales invoices, cash receipts, journals, things like that, just so you can see exactly what's the accounts that are being hit and the ledger entries that are being made. Now, I mentioned before, like maybe this travel expense, we wanted to put it to a particular dimension, or like I said before, those would be considered like our departments or divisions. You can get to these and add these as a shortcut on your lines. Another option is clicking on the lines here and going into dimensions. And so from here, I can code that travel expense line to a specific dimension. So if I wanted to say that dimension there belonged to a specific department for sales, I can go ahead and code it that way. And now that dimension is assigned to that travel expense line. If I open this up here to a little bit larger view, be able to see all the lines here, but you can get to that again by going into lines and dimension. There's also another option as you're entering these journal entries. And if I show more columns, you can see it gets some of the things from the header here disappear. A lot of more appears at the lines. So if you're one of the people that like to see dimensions on the lines as you're coding your entries, you can click on sales here and encode that transaction or that journal entry line to sales on the actual line itself. Another part about Business Central that's a little bit unique is that you can personalize these windows. So there's a lot here that you'll see. That's a lot of things that probably wouldn't be used on a day-to-day basis when you're entering journal entries. So you can remove and hide columns or show columns. This is all personalized for your user. If I click on the gear icon in the top and click on personalize, I can remove columns or hide them. I can move them around. So some pretty cool things you can do to kind of clean up the way that you want to do journal entries, or anywhere for that matter. Inside Business Central, you have this option to personalize. And again, this is a user-specific setting. All right, last thing I wanted to mention before I post this entry here, I'm going to go back to show fewer columns, just so we don't get all confused what that looks like. And this is a really unique thing of Business Central, and it's called Edit in Excel. Wherever you see the page button, you'll find something here that says Open in Excel or Edit in Excel. That allows us to update records right within Excel, publish them back up to Business Central. That can be a listing of your customers, your GL accounts, your vendors, actual transactions like our journal entries here. And so this is really cool stuff. So if I click on Page, Edit in Excel, Microsoft Excel opens up, and it's opening up my other window here. Let me drag it over. And I'm just going to enable editing. Now, because this is an integrated product with the Microsoft Office suite, it's logging me in, looking at my credentials to make sure that I can perform what I'm trying to do here. And it's a live connection to Business Central. And so here is the journal entry lines that I just entered but have not posted yet. And so there's my travel expense, there's my miscellaneous expense. So over here on the right, if I wanted to edit anything, or if I wanted to add new lines to this journal entry just by copying and pasting, I can do that. If I wanted to change the debit and credit amount, like let's say if it wasn't 1,000, it was supposed to be 1,500, I can type that in my Excel spreadsheet here. Over on the right side, click publish. What that's going to do, update our workbook, but also publishes the changes back up to Business Central. So if I close out of this journal entry, open it up again, there's the $1,500 debit and credit amounts that we just adjusted. Also within the spreadsheet here, you can change any of these lines here. So if you also wanted to change the dimensions to that department, maybe to admin, you can do that. But if you think about mass recording entries through Excel and publishing them back up to GP, this is really up to Business Central. This is a really cool tool to do that. And especially when it comes to maintaining customers, vendors, things like that. This Excel feature and publish back up to Business Central is a really, really cool feature. All right, so now that we published up our change, we corrected that dollar amount here. So we updated that to 1,500. So what I'll do now is go ahead and post. And so from the post print menu here, I'm going to, instead now of clicking preview posting, I'm just going to hit post and print. And as we print in the system in Business Central, since we're in a web browser, what you'll see is a lot of things publish as PDF, your different reports. And so this is just an example of a journal register that gets printed out, or the option of printing it out. We can always reprint these things too. But there's our GL account for travel expense for $1,500. There's the dimension code that we added to that, only that line. And then there's the offset, then the miscellaneous expense. Okay. And there's our journal entry lines were successfully posted. All right. So that's journal entries. That's also Excel importing a journal entry too, because you can see not only can you update an entry there, we could also publish up new entries from Excel. So we can kind of use that as a template. Next thing we want to do is now analyze the entries that we just made. And so to do that, a couple of different things we can do. On our homepage, number one, I have a listing of my favorite accounts. So if I wanted to, I could drill in or find that expense account here. I don't have that listed as one of my favorites, but if it's an account that you like to audit, you can choose it from here. So if it's like accounts payable, you wanted to drill into that balance to see what ledger entries made that up, you can click on that and not only see the balance that makes it up, but you can also drill back to the invoices that make that up. And so here's all the different invoices that have been posted that make up that balance. And from these, you can click on the entry or highlight that line and navigate back to the exact invoice. And so posted purchase invoice, I can drill into that. There's the invoice that made that up. Or I can look at the journal entry lines that made that up. So there's the debit and the credit. And so a lot of different things you can do with these drill back capabilities in the system. All right, so that's just one way. That's maybe not the way that you would go to look at the entry you just posted, but one of the ways that you can see account balances. Another way, obviously, is to use our trial balance reports. And so we have two of them here that I have tagged on my homepage as a favorite. I have the trial balance summary, and I have a detailed trial balance. And so these available right from my homepage here. I also have what's called Excel reports. And an Excel report can also be run for trial balance. It can also be run for our aged accounts payables, which I'd also consider a trial balance report, and same thing with accounts receivable. And so any of these three can also be published over to Excel, and you can run those trial balance reports right from within Excel too. I'm going to show you both. So let me print the detailed trial balance first here. And notice I'm just going to filter my miscellaneous expense account. I could open that up and choose all my accounts, but I just wanted to show you just one of them here as an example. And if I go ahead and hit preview or print or send to, any of these options allow us to print or email it to somebody. And here's just a detailed trial balance of everything that's hit that account. Might be a little hard to see. Let me try to zoom in on it a little bit. A little too far. So there's our trial balance, there's our GL account, and all the entries that made that up, giving us, you know, our ending balance of the 31,585. And there's that 1,500 line that we just entered. So that's the detailed trial balance report. The Excel reports then I wanted to show you next. So the Excel report drop down here. I can also run my trial balance. I'm going to run this one a little bit differently. I'm not going to run it for my financials. I'll run it for accounts payable, just so you guys can take a look and see what that looks like. And so again, fully integrated with Excel. So it's a live look back to my data in Business Central. So we'll just enable our security content, refreshing our data, it's reading our data back in Business Central. So I have very few vendors in this test company. That's why I'm not seeing a whole lot here, but there's our 5 different vendors. There's their balance due, current, 30 days, 31 to 60, and over 60 days, right from within the Excel report. And so these refreshable Excel reports are really cool. You can save these locally and open them up, and it'll refresh with the data. So you don't have to necessarily publish these from Business Central every time. Okay. All right, the next thing before we go over to other modules, we'll stick with finance for one more second here, and we'll go into, you know, what we have for our financial reports in the system, like your maybe your balance sheet reports or P&L reports. And what we have for those are called account schedules. And so I'm just going to go ahead and type account schedules, since I haven't navigated that way in a little bit. So I'll show you that we can do that again. So there's our account schedules. So we'll go ahead and click on it. And so an account schedule you can think of as rows that make up the report. So your rows would be your GL accounts that might make up that report. So for example, if I wanted to go into one of these, like our balance sheet report, we go into here and edit that account schedule. Let's see. Well, let me go back. Let me pick one that I've already changed before. It looked like it didn't want me to edit that one. So here's an income statement report. So here are the rows that make up this income statement. So you can think of this report as it gets rendered or printed to screen. You know, what makes up the different lines that you want to see. And so you can type in different lines. You can import these from your actual GL accounts themselves to help you pre-build this report. But you can see here your totaling column represents, you know, what are the account segment values that make up, you know, income and jobs. And so you can enter that here. You can see you can enter a range or multiple ranges that make up a specific, maybe a summary line. And so the rows get built this way. And so you can build your financials this way in the system. The second piece that you need for a financial report is the columns. So this is the rows that we looked at first. The next thing we have is columns. And so what we'll do is go to edit the column layout. And so the column layout that's assigned to balance sheet right now is M-balance. And that's just looking at one column being the balance of the account and the other one looking at the prior year to date. But you can see, I mean, there's a number of different things that you can add here. You can add budgets, you can add, you know, maybe, you know, periods as your different column headers. So a lot of different flexibility that can be used here within the column layouts themselves. And so now that we have a column assigned to our account schedule, what we can do is process and take a look at this. So the first thing I want to look at then is just the report rendered to screen as itself. So if I look at this income statement, and I'll just go ahead and print this, what you'll see is that it opens up just as a rendered report. So a report that I can print to my printer or PDF, send to somebody for review. And so this is what my income statement looks like right now for that range that I selected. Nothing too fancy. However, if you wanted to, when you do that print option, there are options here for your start and end date that I didn't mention. I filtered on a specific department, so you can filter on those dimensions that we talked about before to really go ahead and run that report the way that you want to see it. Another option that we have, if I go back to, let me edit, go to my process and go to my overview. This is a screen that actually allows you to drill in. So running the report and printing it doesn't let you drill into those balances. However, if I run it as an overview, this kind of gives me that flexibility. So I have my account schedule, my column name that I selected. I can filter, do a date filter at the top when I want to run this as of. And then down below is all my rows that I showed you before and the balances that make up those accounts. And so I can drill into any one of these. So if I wanted to see account product sales and say, okay, what is this 6,372.16? I can click into it and view, the transactions and the GL accounts that make that up. And so this was the GL account 40200 that made that up. There's the net change. I can click into the net change. And again, all that same drill back that I showed you before, available right from the financial report that you rendered a screen. So if you want anybody to have this drill back capability, they would need a Business Central license port, since I can't print and send that drill back capability to somebody else. All right, so that's a little bit about account schedules. Next, let's go into probably what some other people would want to see, and that's entering purchasing invoices or payables invoices in the system. I'm going to show you two different options for that. I did mention this integration in Outlook, so I do have something here ready to show you. And so within Outlook, I have a plugin in Outlook called Business Central. And so this is a really quick, configuration you can do to Office 365. This add-in is available not only on your desktop Outlook app, it's also available if you run Office 365, through a web browser. So the configuration of this is done through a wizard, and a lot of Business Central is set up through assisted setups. And so if I go to assisted setup here, just going off course a little bit here, but I think this is really worth showing. So these assisted setups in the system are really cool. This can help you get Business Central configured quicker as you're setting up a new company. Because these are all wizard-based setups. So if you wanted to set up email, there's a wizard for it. You just click on it and you run through the various setup options for it. And if you want to link it to your Outlook, set up Business Central inbox in Outlook, you run through that wizard. And again, very quick. I had this set up in my company probably in less than 15 minutes to get this functionality that I'm going to show you here working. So this demo that I have here, I have an email from my Gmail myself, looking like it's a vendor. And so basically what I have with Contact Insights is if I don't have this email address here associated with anybody, whether that be a vendor or a customer, I can link it to somebody or create it as a new contact. However, since I have this person set up as a contact for Wide World Importers, which is a vendor in my Business Central environment, it already knows that it's a vendor, so it's giving me what's outstanding right now as far as invoices that I have for them. And again, these are all hyperlinks. I can drill back to the balance. I can drill back to the outstanding invoices. I can scroll down and see open purchase orders, open purchase invoices in the system here. But the really cool thing that I can do is actually create and even post an invoice without ever logging in to Business Central. I can do this right from my Outlook. So what I can do here is click on New, and it gives me the option, because it's a vendor, I can create a credit memo, a purchase order, or a purchase invoice. So this demo, I'm going to do a purchase invoice. And so what it's going to open here is another kind of unique feature, which is suggesting line items, because I have in my body here lamp 6 at 20, desk 8 at 150. It found an item in my item master called Amsterdam lamp because it had lamp in the name, and then desk, found the Athens desk code suggesting that says, hey, do you want to purchase these 2 lines? So if I can take these suggestions in the quantity and click OK, that would help me pre-build my invoice. I'm not going to do that this time. I'll hit cancel, and I'll just manually enter this invoice. So number 1, I got my system date, the due date based off of the terms with this vendor, which is 30 days. I can enter in my vendor invoice number. So this is the invoice that they sent us. So I'm just going to type in the 103073, and I'll put a -2 because I've probably demoed this more than once. And then down in my item section here, my lines, I can either choose an actual item, like an actual charged item or a miscellaneous item that I have built in my item master, or I can choose a GL account. So I'm going to choose GL account, and I'm just going to, just like you're coding this as a payable transaction, I'm just going to record this to just a specific expense. So let's just say that this is going to be, sure, office supplies expense, the 61400. And so I can choose that account. If I scroll over here, or I could even make this bigger. I could probably pop this out and make it bigger, but I'll do it within the plugin here. I'll do quantity of 1, and I'll just lump this all together, 170 bucks. Okay, so now I have this transaction. It knows the accounts payable account because that came from my vendor. Now it knows the offset account, the 61400. So now I can go ahead and either save this invoice or I can post it. Saving it would allow me to pull back up Business Central to review it, post it later, or if I'm comfortable here, I can just go ahead and post. And so because I am comfortable posting it, since this all looks good to me, I'm going to go ahead and hit post and post that invoice. Yep. And there we go. There's our posted invoice. So now if I go back to Business Central, I'd be able to go ahead and find this invoice that we just posted here. So if we come here and look at posted purchase invoices, we would be able to locate that invoice that we just typed in. And there it is, the most recent one at the very top, the $170. I can drill into that document number. And there's that invoice that we entered in right from Outlook. Another option, obviously you don't have to do the Outlook option. I think that's pretty cool. You can also initiate customer quotes, orders, invoices this way as well. But obviously you can initiate invoices through Business Central as well. Real quick on that, I'm going to show you the vendor list. So this is similar to what I showed you with our GL accounts. Again, this is a list view. Notice the page, notice the edit in Excel. I can edit my vendors in Excel and publish changes back up. But from here, I can highlight a vendor like Wide World Importers if I wanted to just code the transaction within GP, or I'm sorry, Business Central. Click the new document at the top, purchase invoice. Notice this window almost identical to the Outlook plugin that we just looked at before. There's my vendor doc number. There's my items or my GL account that I can choose. Again, I can clean this grid window up using the personalize. So if you didn't need to see the location code or the unit measure, since you're only doing payables and you're not doing inventory, you can pull these things out that are not pertinent to your company and how you enter payables. Okay. So that's entering a purchase invoice. Back on this list view, I wanted to point out that we have our vendor balances here. So you don't need to necessarily print a trial balance report. There's no separate window that you have to go to find a vendor's balance. It's available to us right here within this column. So Wide World Importers has an 8,000 plus balance. I can drill into and see that. I'm not going to show you the drilling since we've kind of hit that many times already. But on the right side, what I haven't showed you yet is another pane here called vendor statistics. So you'll see this for vendors, you'll see this for customers, you'll see this for items. And so kind of looks similar to what we saw in Outlook, giving us information about this vendor, their open balance, outstanding orders, and then tiles that represent purchase orders, invoices that we have open in the system. All right. Moving along then, I'm not going to go into the payment process, but I'll just kind of highlight it really quick for purchasing and payables. Cash management, we have payment journals that can be written. And so I have a few here. Again, these are your different batches for whether that be actual printed checks, whether it would be an ACH or EFT type payment or a credit card. You can have different batches built so that you can cut these payments to your vendors. I have one here called just check disbursement that I would use to do actual physical checks. And a cool feature within here is a suggest vendor payments. So if you're familiar with that sort of letting the system generate suggested payments for you, you can look at your due dates on your documents and have the system suggest which payments to make based off of the due dates. And so that is a feature here in Business Central that I wanted to point out. I won't demo it, but I'll just point that one out. Okay, on the sales side, I want to go touch on sales for the last little bit here. And I'm going to go back to my home page, and I'm going to go into my customers. And so you can see a lot of this is built off of these list views. So this is my customer list view. Same thing on the right-hand side. I get customer statistics, outstanding balances, open orders, open invoices. All these are drill back again. So let's say I were to create a transaction for somebody here, maybe create a new order or a new sales invoice for somebody. I would highlight the customer record, such as this top one, click on new document at the top, and I can click on create a new sales order or create a new sales invoice or create a new sales quote. And so life cycle of a sales document, you could start with a quote, transfer it to an order, transfer it to an invoice so that you get paid on that document. So that's kind of the life cycle. You can initiate any one of these steps though. So I can just create an invoice without creating the order first or vice versa. So in this one here, I'm going to go ahead and create a sales order just to kind of walk us through what this looks like real quick. So we have our sales order for our customer here, our due date, again, based off of payment terms that we have set up with this customer. External document number, that's your customer's PO number that they gave you, if they gave you that. And then down at the bottom, we can, same thing, enter items. Looking at our item master, GL account, we can do a comment line if we just wanted to type text that appears on printed documents. We can do that. So if I wanted to pick something here, like if I wanted to sell a chair or a desk as an example, I can choose that, pick which location it's coming from. Let's say we'll take that from the main warehouse, and this customer is ordering one. And on the right-hand side here, what you'll be able to see is item availability. So pretty cool that this is all available to us right from this screen. We don't have to drill in to find out our availability. The item availability is available to us right within this window. So on the right-hand side here, I can see that I have zero, availability of this item. So I can actually click on it though, and what this kind of runs is your ins and outs. So if you have open purchase orders or planning set up, you can see those. Maybe when you're due to have that item in next as an item availability report. So that's pretty cool. So we don't have any of that item, but just kind of wanted to point out real quickly on the sales orders, we're running short time, how that item gets added, how you can see the item availability. And then once this is ready for shipment, we can go ahead and ship the orders and transfer them into invoices. And so let me close out of this one here and run a couple different reports for us so that we can see what our open sales orders are. So we have, again, list views for sales orders, for sales invoices. And so for our open sales orders, you can have lists and again, filters. You can have these pre-built with favorites so that you can see, but there's our customer PO 1234. You can drill back in, make changes to it as you see fit. If you're ready to send this to your customer, you can email them a confirmation or print a confirmation, and we'll go ahead and do that just so we can see what that looks like. So there's your order confirmation, what the default one looks like out of Business Central. And of course, these documents can be changed if you need to add additional columns or take things out. All right, so once this is ready to ship an invoice, what we could do is post. It's called a post transaction, so we can hit post at the top. We can also do this from the list view in the prior window if you want to do multiple at the same time. We don't have to do just one at a time. So you can ship an invoice all in one step, or you can do a shipment and the invoice separate. That would be obviously a business decision as we work through implementing. But ship an invoice, I'll just do that just so we can see what the invoice looks like once it's printed. So that moved to a posted invoice. Do we want to see it? Sure. And so there's our invoice where we can now print or email that invoice to our customer. Real quick, just to show you what that looks like. Similar to the order confirmation, but there's our printed invoice. All right. Of course, we have cash receipts. We could close up the sales process by going into cash management, doing our cash receipt journal. If the customer paid us by credit card or cash or check, we can enter that and record that against the appropriate invoice. I won't demonstrate that, but just to show you, to close that loop, we do have that option there. Last little bit, just wanted to touch on a couple things for the time remaining. So purchasing and vendors, I want to come back here one more time just to show you purchase orders. At the top, we can select our vendor just like we did with the customer by highlighting and then clicking on new document at the top. If I wanted to initiate a new purchase order rather than just doing a payable invoice, let's say, I can create a purchase order to a vendor and then obviously print that purchase order to the vendor as an external document to the vendor that we're requesting these goods for purchase. And so as we create a new purchase order, you'll see that there's an asterisk that there's a required value here. Now, for a vendor invoice number on a purchase order, that's not technically required until you're ready to transfer that PO into an invoice after you've received it. So take that asterisk with a grain of salt there because we don't necessarily need that at this point. But down at the bottom, to create this purchase order, really just need to associate it with the vendor, which we've already done, document date, and what we're purchasing. So same thing, if we're purchasing a chair, I don't have to know the item number. I can see all the items that I have here with the word chair in it to select it. So if I wanted to purchase the London swivel chair, I can go ahead and select it. Where do I want to bring that to? Main warehouse. What's the quantity? Let's purchase 10. Gave us our last cost with that vendor at 148. I can accept that or change that. And then go ahead and enter any additional items or comments that I see fit here. And then obviously I can print this to my vendor or email this to my vendor, a copy of this PO. So again, same thing as before with the sales documents. These things can be configured. You'll see if you have a company logo, I have just a blob up here, but that would show your company logo. You can see I customized this just to show you how you can. I just added hard code text here to say confirm all orders with this email address before shipping. There's my contact with the highlight. So pretty straightforward purchase order document. And then once we're ready to receive this in an invoice, we can do that one step or two steps, but posting, we can go ahead and post by receiving it and then later getting the invoice and matching that invoice to the receipt, or we can receive an invoice all in one step. And so once we receive an invoice, it's going to yell at us because we didn't enter that document number. So that's where I said you didn't necessarily need that vendor document number until you're ready to post the invoice. So once you're ready to post, that might be that your vendor sent this at a different amount, so you can change the amount if necessary. Okay, that's about everything I wanted to cover in today's quick look into Business Central. I know that was probably a lot, went through a lot of different modules. I did want to show you though the product and actually transact inside the product so that you guys could see it. We did want to point out one thing here at the end of today, and that's an offer that Microsoft has. It's a special offer for existing Dynamics GP customers. And so what this slide deck is showing us here is that for anybody that's coming up on their annual renewal or your enhancement plan, this would allow you the opportunity to test out Business Central while continuing to use GP. So basically you'd have access not only to Business Central, but you'd also have access to GP at the same time. This would allow you to pay, in addition, this would allow you to pay monthly on your annual plan instead of the traditional upfront lump sum. So if you're interested in this, please reach out to us. If there's any questions in the chat, or we can reach out to us separately too, that is perfectly fine. But I appreciate everybody's time today and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.